This video is sponsored by Morning Brew. Recently, a TikToker by the name of Austin Wallace quit his $100,000 per year job, went to Jake Paul's event, and tried to go backstage and have an interaction with Logan Paul. He actually did this. He didn't have a pass, but he went backstage and he got a one-on-one with Logan Paul, and he asked him for a job. Now, this video has gone viral on TikTok. A lot of people have made commentary videos about this. This is kind of new for me though, because I haven't made a commentary video in over 2 years. But I watched this video, I was a little blown away by it, and especially by how Logan Paul handled this interaction that he's probably had with so many people over the years. And I wanted to talk about it. I think there's a lot of valuable lessons to learn from this interaction that this guy had with Logan Paul. And there's actually a lot I admire about this thing he did, this risk he took. So this is a breakdown of the two great things that I think Austin Wallace did and what we can learn from it. And then also how he could have maybe adjusted or pivoted to make it a more fruitful interaction. As someone who's just left his not quite 100K per year, but like approaching that much software job for full-time YouTube, this was especially close to my heart. But I want to start with two things that I think Austin Wallace did right. The first idea is that life demands calculated risks for growth. If what he's saying is true, then making 100K per year at 22 years old, that's pretty incredible. This definitely puts him in the top 7 or 8% of income earners in his age bracket. And our first instinct might be to say, you should never leave that amount of money. But that's not true. When I wasn't making $100,000 a year, which is a salary that I've only been making for like the last 15 months now, and I'm 28, I thought 100K as a single guy was seriously rich. And it is. But once you hit a certain milestone, your mind pretty much immediately goes on to the next one. And you think to yourself, you know, what would it take to make $200,000 a year? And it's not because I would even know what to do with that much money. Like, I don't think I have sufficient numbers of hobbies or things I would want to buy or vacations I want to take. I mean, I don't even like travel at all. So it's not necessarily what the money could do for you, but just this curiosity of, now that I've done this, what else can I do? And wanting to do more, I think, is a good thing. Like, it's an inherent drive that's within us. You always want to be growing. And I personally think it's pretty amazing that a guy would demonstrate the initiative to reach out to someone he admires, someone like Logan Paul, which regardless of how you feel about the guy, I think it cannot be denied that he is world-class at social media and entertainment and garnering a lot of attention online, which is a big kind of skill in the 21st century. Austin Wallace basically forced himself through sheer will of power to be in the presence of Logan Paul and ask him for a job. Imagine if we all went through that same level of initiative and courage with all of our interactions in life. Sure, you'd get knocked on the ground a little bit. Maybe people would make fun of you because you'd end up doing something embarrassing, but you also would put yourself in so many remarkable scenarios where people do start talking about you, you get attention, and every once in a while you get that yes that catapults you to the next level. We shouldn't shy away from risks like quitting our job, because calculated risks can really get you where you need to go. This brings me to the second idea that Austin Wallace did right, and that's this idea that our mentors can elevate us far more quickly than we can elevate ourselves.
A lot of people, they're not willing to do what it takes, you know, to get a mentor. My name's Ty. Hi, Ty. Listen, do you have a mentor?
It's actually pretty scary how much our environment, the people we're with, affects how things play out. My videographer, Thomas, he talks about how he's going for a PR when he bench presses pretty much every time. And this eventually made me, like, emotionally understand that I need to progressive overload. And I had this mental kind of barrier for how much I'd been bench pressing and thinking I was okay bench pressing for so long. And it's because I'd had to hear him week in and week out talk about how he's going up 5 pounds and 10 pounds. He'd always be talking about it, that it made me think, damn, I gotta bench more. And so I eventually added weight and tried for a 1-rep PR max, just because I'm always hanging out with this guy who goes for 1-rep maxes all the time. Similarly, about 6 months ago, I was on this call where Mr. Beast just suddenly showed up on the call. He was giving us all YouTube advice, and he pretty much roasted my channel. Mr. Beast just said, you know, when I look at your titles and thumbnails, I don't see anything that I would want to click on. And that's your answer. That's why your videos aren't doing well. And I was so gypped. I was so salty about what he said, because I was like, oh, you don't understand. I'm making artistic projects. I'm making videos I'm passionate about. It'll pay off in the long run. But that played in my mind so much, the fact that my titles and thumbnails weren't worth clicking on, that for the next 6 weeks, I had my titles and thumbnails dialed in so much. Every video got between 150 and 250,000 views, which is really high for my channel. Like, I don't consistently get those views. It eventually went away, but that was because of 5 minutes of talking to Mr. Beast. That mindset seeped in, where I thought I have to make my title and thumbnail really enticing. That was 5 minutes with this guy. And so even though it didn't pan out, Austin's interaction with Logan, I get the sense that just having looked at Logan Paul in the eye and interacted with this guy who's so wildly successful on all of these social media platforms, it has to have a payoff. It has to have some psychological effect because you just were in the presence of a guy who's done so much with his career and you want to pursue the same thing. It's undeniable that it would have an effect on you. This guy Austin is probably going to feel the impact of this interaction for months to come. But if those are the things he did right, where could Austin have done better? You know, it's cool that he took a risk. It's cool that he quit his job to try to go for something he'd be more passionate about. But what lessons are there in taking calculated risks or reaching out to people? I think the first is that we always have to start with trying to offer value. I mean, as someone who's been like an aspiring actor, I kind of get where he's coming from. I put myself in this position many times where I would reach out to different people who are way further along than me, and I didn't really think about what would give them value. I would just thought, I don't know, who knows? Maybe they'll, give me something that I want out of pity. And that's the card that this guy tried to play. He tried to play the pity card. He said, I don't have any friends. Like,
you don't have friends?
I don't. I swear to God.
Logan, this is my dream. Help me get my dream. The thing is, people aren't persuaded by having pity for you. They're persuaded when you give them value. That's one of the first things Logan asked him. He said, what are you good at? What skills do you have? He actually was open-minded about this. And the guy said, oh, not much. But the thing about offering value is that it doesn't have to be just your skills. Maybe you don't have a lot of skills in your early career. Of course, it's great to keep learning and getting better and better at whatever your craft is. But the one thing you can offer someone, even if you don't have skill, is your intent. And that's something that's a little more like hard to measure, but intent registers so aggressively. There was a moment in the interaction where Logan asked Austin, what are you good at? Austin mentioned his TikTok and a dance he did. Then Logan said, okay, so then you have what it takes. And Austin said, no. And even that's all right. It's all right to admit that you're not good yet. But had Austin just said, I don't have what it takes right now, but I want to get there. I want to learn, and I'm going to do it. Whether you give me a job or not, I'm going to get good at this, and you should hire me just because I'm going to find a way to give you value. I think that would have changed the dynamic a little bit. Once again with Thomas, when my videographer Thomas first connected with me to try to work together on something, I had two things to go off of that made me think he offered something special. The first is that he wrote me a full script for a sketch idea that he had, a sketch that we could do together. And secondly, he Ubered over, because he didn't have a car at the time, he Ubered over to my place with a camera and a tripod and told me he could get me the shots I wanted. He said he could do it. And I've told him this many times since then, but those first shots he got me, they were so not that well composed. I could tell he had the rough material to be a good videographer, but he wasn't that great at composition back then. A lot of the shots weren't that usable, but I could see that he was really intent. He had a mindset of wanting to learn and grow. And the fact that he took a risk, he Ubered over there, and he was just thinking about how to give me value, made me want to keep working with him. And we've been working together for a year and 3 months now, just because of that intent. It was this incredible willingness to try, and that's something that we all find very compelling. This mindset of not having something to offer right away, at least not tactically, I feel I've been in that position many times. It's like every job you ever apply for, even if they're entry level, for some reason they ask for years of experience. And I've often thought to myself, if I've had years of experience, if I have the resume that you're asking for, why would I apply for this job? I probably want to be the manager. But many times when I've gone in for these interviews that I've not been quite qualified for, it was my intent that registered and got me the job. My last job as a software consultant, I had created a mock consulting exercise and then tried to create a solution for that exercise I created. And I presented it to the man who would soon be my manager and a really good mentor to me the next few years. And he told me he looked over this document, the solution that I had created, and he said it was riddled full of errors. It was just so off. But he loved the fact that I tried to present something. I tried to put myself in the position of already being a consultant, not just a guy who is asking for a job. When you generate intent, when you tactically demonstrate to people that you're serious about learning, you're serious about getting better, even if you're not talented, even if you don't have skills, that makes them respect you. A quick pause here to talk about Morning Brew, which is the sponsor of today's video. Morning Brew is a free daily newsletter that comes to your inbox 7 days per week. This week was a fun issue as Morning Brew drew from James Clear, who's a writer, author, blogger that I've been following for many years. He wrote this book, Atomic Habits. I'm sure many of you have heard of it. And in that newsletter, James Clear talked about the importance of setting up your environment for success and why a lot of people in the last 18 months since the pandemic has started, the reason that they feel unproductive or haven't been able to get as much done is that when you have a dedicated workplace, you psychologically are primed to do more work, to do better work. And so we can often use this to our advantage by creating environments that help us with certain habits. So for instance, if you want to get into the habit of reading more, what you can do is just set up like an armchair that's just going to be your reading armchair, and have the book that you want to read right next to it. And then all you ever do in that armchair is read. And that helps you build that habit a little more. I've actually been thinking about implementing this in a few terrains of my life. Now that winter is coming, once again, I've been thinking about renting out a studio space in the arts district of Minneapolis so that I would feel I had a dedicated workspace to create videos. It was a cool insight to revisit, and Morning Brew always is presenting articles that are life-affirming, knowledgeable, really interesting material that makes me feel smarter, more engaged, like I'm in tune with what's happening in the world. There's no reason not to subscribe to Morning Brew if you're interested in business, finance, or tech. It's completely free, and it takes less than 30 seconds to subscribe. Thank you, Morning Brew, for sponsoring this video. The second thing that I think Austin Wallace could have done to pivot to make his interaction with Logan Paul more fruitful is to have a portfolio of work that he had ready to present to him. Now, he already was kind of starting to do this with his growing TikTok, and to his credit, like, because this TikTok went so viral, all these people are talking about it. I think a lot of people are going to know who this guy is. So he's actually done a lot for himself, and Logan Paul has done a lot for him just by having that interaction. But he didn't have a sufficient portfolio to present to have something worth showing off. As someone who is interested in acting, I realized that back in the day, like before my time, all it took to potentially get an agent is to have an interesting look, which pretty much everyone has an interesting look, like a look you could fit, and good headshots to present that look. But I remember when I first moved to LA, the headshots were not nearly enough. The headshots told you nothing about your capacity as an actor. What was needed instead was a demo reel. It was actually important. Every agent, every casting director was asking me, like, where's your demo reel? I need to see what you can do on camera while the camera's rolling. Eventually, it's gotten to the point now where if you don't have a social media presence, you don't have work to demonstrate, no one knows what to do with you, no one knows if you have any talent or not. This is also what it takes to stand out in the corporate world today. Everyone should be writing blog posts, articles, making videos, or having some sort of website page where people can see your work. People can see what you're capable of doing or how you've been interacting with the industry. Because even if you don't have that much experience, it's a way of demonstrating to people that you are in the terrain, that you're in the mud, you're in the arena of the career that you're in. And that brings me to the last point of this video. Humility is helpful, but so is ego. People don't like people who artificially played the victim. If there's one thing that I've learned over the last few years, and especially on my time on YouTube, is that people have like an amazing barometer for authenticity or the lack of it. So if you're not really presenting yourself as you are, if you're trying to be something you're not, unless you're like an amazing actor, which even then you would struggle with this, people can see right through you. People can tell when you're putting on a face, and people can tell if there's just something off about you, as if you don't actually believe what you're saying. And the balance between ego and humility is something I struggle with. I think true humility is a wonderful quality. You should especially be humble about having a beginner's mindset and always wanting to improve, always wanting to get better. But at the same time, having an ego is really helpful. At least the ego of knowing I'm capable of doing good work. And you know what? I can probably actually do better work than the other guy. Screw him. I got this. Having confidence, and hey, even confidence that may occasionally seep into arrogance, as long as it's a genuine arrogance and you're not putting it on, genuine arrogance is more valuable than fake humility. And you should do things in life to build that confidence within yourself. And if you don't have a lot of confidence in yourself, what you should do is take on really small goals that you can achieve those goals, and somehow that triggers something in your brain that says, I can set new intentions, work towards those, and like something new can come into this world because I decided it would be. It's a really powerful feeling, and it's way more useful than playing the victim card. In their interaction, Austin had told Logan Paul that he didn't have any friends, and Logan just didn't believe him. He said, look, you're a good looking guy. You have friends.
No, bro, you're a good looking guy, bro. You have friends, bro. You're fucking lying.
So go make content with your friends, because no one gives you a handout. And I think that's entirely true. Granted, a lot of people in the world have had experiences where they could play the victim card, like probably much worse than this guy. If he really is what he says he is, he's like a 22-year-old, good looking, who is making a lot of money. Don't play the victim card. Even if you can play the victim card, try not to. Instead, try to generate momentum around yourself. Use that healthy ego to go get things for yourself. Put yourself in a position where you want to connect with people, you want to take risks, you want to put yourself out there, but at the end of the day, you also don't need anything from anyone. If no one's going to give anything to you, you can get it yourself. You can take it yourself. Drop the facade. If you feel humility, feel it for the love of your work and your desire to get better. And if you think you're hot stuff, let that show. Who cares? Real arrogance is way better than fake humble. If you're new to this channel, my name is Nikhil. This channel is a combination of genuine videos like this one, It's my first commentary video in a long time, so let me know what you thought of it. It also combines videos like this with lifestyle experiments, upcoming video essays, and also comedy sketches. So if that's something that appeals to you, consider subscribing. And with that being said, for those of us who are willing to take risks, but calculated risks, to us I say greatness is coming. Cheers.